Hello EFD squad and welcome back to the UCL review where we put Europe's premier competition underneath the microscope. Joining me in my investigations is Patrick van Straten, and you watched Tottenham RB last night, right? So we're going to kick off with them. How was it?
It was extremely one-sided. Tottenham meekly succumbed to a 1-0 home defeat at the hands of RB Leipzig. That makes it look like it was close. It was not. The goal was a Timo Werner penalty after Ben Davies absolutely cleaned out Konrad Laimer in the box, but truthfully, it could have been 3-0. Nagelsmann got his tactics just right on the evening that he became the youngest coach ever to manage a Champions League knockout tie, while Mourinho was experiencing his 150th game in the competition. That's something that only, I think, Ferguson, Ancelotti and Wenger have done before. But it wasn't great for him. In fact, actually going into this game, Mourinho had more wins in the Champions League with 81 than Nagelsmann had in all competitions. This brought him his 74th victory in all competitions as a coach, which is absolutely wild.
You know when Nagelsmann first broke through, wasn't he referred to as mini Mourinho?
Yeah, which makes no sense given that I can't imagine anyone who coaches less like Mourinho. And to be honest, it was really exciting seeing such a young side show absolutely no fear. They forced Hugo Lloris into 2 saves in the opening minute. They could have scored a couple of times then. He also denied Timo Werner in the first half. He denied Patrick Schick on a breakaway in the second to keep Tottenham in the tie. Now the shot count, if you look at it at the end of the game, it was 16-12 in RB Leipzig's favour. I think both sides had 5 on target. But before the goal, RB had had 14 shots and Spurs had had 5. RB had had 63% of the possession. It was genuinely so dominant. After going ahead, they obviously sat off a little bit and Spurs had 7 shots to Leipzig's 2 in the last half hour. But still, the home side could only muster 0.8 expected goals compared to the 1.8 of the visitors. So I think a very deserved loss for Spurs.
Yeah, like you said, just extremely impressive going forward, weren't they? And we talk a lot about Werner in isolation, but actually his relationship with Schick and the way they played together was perhaps the most impressive thing in this game. Together, they mustered 9 shots and 4 on target. Werner ran the channels, completed 2 dribbles. Schick provided that focal point in attack, didn't he? Winning 3 of his 4 aerial duels. It was a lovely moment as well, where Werner dummies it, lets it go through his legs. Schick produces an okay shot, and it was a solid save by Hugo Lloris. But that is a really good demonstration of their understanding. Now, we've discussed a lot where Timo Werner could go this summer. We've kind of settled on Liverpool as an ideal destination for him, haven't we? But if that release clause is still there, if his contract isn't renegotiated, I think there will be a lot of clubs in for him, competing for his signature, particularly after the decisive performances like this. Let's go shine a light on someone else though. Ethan Ampadu also had a very decent night in just his 7th appearance for the club. The 19-year-old Welshman won possession 6 times, completed 93 passes, really solid distributing it from the back, 20 more than the next best player with a 95% pass accuracy. So while they were dominant, and perhaps he didn't have an awful lot to do until the last 20-30 minutes, he was starting their attacks very, very well. And that is despite playing the last 10 minutes with cramp. When the final whistle went, he just timber.
The last action of the game is him making like a potentially goal-saving intervention, I think on Bergwijn, and then he just goes down. It was genuinely unbelievable because they'd used all their subs.
Yeah.
It was so impressive from Ampadu.
I think despite the result though, the game's outstanding player was probably a Tottenham player, and it was probably Giovanni Lo Celso.
It's unreal.
He was great in this game, completing 4 dribbles, creating 3 chances, as well as mustering 3 shots, putting 2 on target, unsurprisingly all team highs. And I thought that rasping free kick was going to go in before it was tipped onto the post and went out for a corner. By comparison, Dele Alli, who, we thought he'd have a tough time playing in this new role, right, against a team as adept in possession as RB. Did not create a chance, did not have a shot, and was removed on 64 minutes for Eric Lamela, throwing his boots, water, anything he could find around while sat on the bench, which you understand to an extent. It's frustrating, especially in the last 16 of the competition when they had so much success last year, to feel like you played no part in the result. and be a player of Dele Alli's ability must be really frustrating. Mourinho didn't really hold back when talking about the incident after the game either. Not mincing his words here, is he?
Jose, Dele Alli looked angry when you took him off?
I think he was angry with this performance,
okay.
Not with me. I think he understands why I took him off. And the team improved.
Yes, some very choice words there, and obviously lamented the thinness of his squad further into the interview. Sure now of Harry Kane and Heung-Min Son, so that must be really frustrating for him. Described his squad as absolutely dead as well, but it wasn't long ago that he was revelling in the fact that he'd transformed Dele Alli, and now is Dele Alli at the risk of becoming the token fall guy, the old Mourinho, normally identified when things weren't going his way.
I just think Mourinho just did a bad job. He can complain about players missing and those players matter. But after the game, he was like, Leipzig were just bringing on player after player. It's like they brought on Amadou Haidara, you brought on Tanguy Ndombele. Like, what are you talking about? And it was weird as well that the bench, I don't think Sessegnon was on the bench, and Troy Parrott I don't think was on the bench either. But anyway, I remember there were 3 midfielders on the bench. They had Ndombele, they had Dyer, and they had Oliver Skipp. And I was like, what a weird way to construct your bench if you know that attack might be an issue. So I really don't understand it. But to be honest, I just wish they'd conceded more, because now it is still doable that they go through. But they've got Chelsea up, they've got Wolves, then they've got a couple of easy games, then they've got Norwich and Burnley, but then they go to Leipzig. Their run is not particularly nice.
No, and every Arsenal fan in the office is convinced they're going to scrape through. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to our second and last game.
Just before we get into our second game of the evening, just a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. Hit the notification bell to never miss a video, and we really don't want you to miss the Atalanta content, and there is primo Atalanta content this week. No surprises, our other game is the only other game of the night. Atalanta 4, Valencia 1. And this is such a feel-good story. Atalanta absolutely battering Valencia 4-1 at home with 2 goals from Hans Hateboer, Ilicic getting 1 and Freuler getting 1 as well, with the only consolation coming via Denis Cheryshev.
Good finish.
The Bergamo side playing in the San Siro, for reasons passing understanding, lost their first 3 games in the competition. Obviously, they were in that group with Shakhtar, with Man City, and was it like Dinamo or someone? And they conceded 11 goals in that time, but have since drawn 1 and won 3 and stand on the verge of the Champions League quarterfinals. It's so good.
Imagine telling an AC Milan fan 10 years ago that Atalanta will be battering someone in the last 16 in your ground while you're languishing in mid-table in Serie A.
It would be funny.
What a world we live in.
I wish we could go back and do that. Anyway, we shouldn't be surprised by the scoreline in one sense, because Atalanta are Serie A's top goal scorers. They've got 63 goals in 24 games. That's 2.6 a game. They've scored 3 or more goals in 12 of their 32 matches in all competitions so far.
Staggering.
And in this game, when they were 2-0 up and it was looking like they were a little bit ropey defensively, they took off a defender and put on a striker. Love that.
That's so anti-Italian.
But it's a kind of sensible move, right? In a way, because you're like, if you just defend, they might still just score a goal out of nowhere. If you get that 3rd goal, the tie is pretty much sewn up. And they got the 3rd goal and it has pretty much sewn the tie up. On the other hand, it was probably good finishing that gave them that commanding lead. They had 11 shots, Valencia had 18, 5 on target apiece, but XG had it at 2.3 to 1.6 in Valencia's favour. Though I would also say that's partially because they were behind for literally the entire match.
Yeah, and also we're not counting the incident where Valencia almost scored an own goal from that Papu Gomez cross, are we, with XG.
That was extremely funny. Ilicic's first Champions League goal of the season, but his 12th in 12 games, was an absolute screamer from the edge of the box. And Remo Freuler's unbelievable goal,
better than Ilicic's.
Far too much space. Yeah, because Ilicic's, you do feel like the keeper should have done better.
Yeah.
But Freuler just gets the ball on the edge of the box, just turns around in a little circle, like a little do-si-do, and then puts it in the top corner. It's absolutely ridiculous.
With Ilicic, though, they were so deep, Valencia. There wasn't lines in between the midfield and attack. It was just like everyone was camped in the box, just hoping that Atalanta hit a man.
Yeah, now I think about it, when Ilicic takes his shot, the pressure on him, the nearest player putting pressure on him is behind him. It's Carlos Soler. that's never going to stop him banging it in.
Yeah, they close him down okay, but when he receives the ball, there's 5 Valencia defenders in the box marking 1 Atalanta attacker. And Ilicic just can't believe his luck that he gets to kind of pick the ball up, lift his head and have a whack.
It does help, though, that they've got goal threat from so many different angles. So Hateboer, like, his first goal is him genuinely making it into kind of the centre-forward zone. And so far this season, Atalanta's 12 Champions League goals have been scored by 10 different players.
That's class.
More different goal scorers than any other team in the competition. So you can mark Ilicic and Gomez, but you've got to also cover Hateboer and Pasalic and Goossens. Like, there are so many threats from so many angles. I just think they're great fun, and now it looks like they're odds on to go through.
They're like ants, aren't they? Which is, I suppose, that's what they do. Like Valencia,
irresponsible ants.
They lost their shape because they do attack from multiple fronts, don't they? Really difficult night for Albert Celedes's side, and it continues their indifferent form in 2020. The record now stands at played 11, won 4, drawn 2, lost 5, and that did include a 2-0 win over Barcelona, but they've now lost to Mallorca, who sit in 18th position. Getafe, a fair few teams have lost to Getafe, having a very good run this season. And Atalanta, whilst conceding 11 goals in the process. And obviously a hallmark of Valencia in times gone by, especially under Marcelino, was their solid defence, right? They've not been free scoring for a little while. And losing a bit of that identity now as well. And they really weren't helped by the performance of 29-year-old backup goalkeeper Domenech in this game, where he was picked ahead of Silasson, in fact. Definitely could have done better with Ilicic's goal, like we said. And Hateboer's second kind of went around his midriff, kind of just passed him, almost went through him, although he was clean through on goal. Only saved 1 of the 5 shots that Atalanta put on target. A really disappointing result for Lost Chair, because they have been good in the Champions League this campaign. Unbeaten in their previous 4, winning 2 and drawing 2. Their only defeat in this year's competition, in fact, prior to last night, was that 3-0 defeat, that 3-0 humbling at home to Ajax on match day 2. One possible excuse Celedes could, legitimately present is an injury crisis, and it's reaching epic proportions now, isn't it? Piscini, Garay, Vallejo, Rodrigo, Coquelin and Gabriel all out in this game, meaning that Mangala had to make just his 5th appearance of the season.
He almost scored an own goal.
He still exists. Bless him. Key performers, Kondogbia put in a massive shift. 12 tackles and interceptions.
Yeah, but that's just like you're playing Atalanta stats.
Yeah.
It's just a million men running at you all the time.
But you're playing Atalanta to the best of your ability stats, which can't be said for some of his teammates.
But this is like 300 though. Yeah. Like just blokes just running at him just taking out as many as he can.
He was Gerard Butler, Kondogbia in this. 2 aerial duels, 1 dribble and 3 shots as well, so contributing on multiple fronts. Now, for Atalanta, it kind of goes without saying. It's a little bit redundant when you're like, oh, Atalanta won, Ilicic was good, and Papu Gomez were good, because they're great all the time, aren't they? But Pasalic, awesome. On loan from Chelsea. I think it's set to be made permanent this summer. I think it's his 2nd consecutive year on loan,
and only
right?
for like 15 million euros, I think.
Value in the market. By the way, Atalanta's wage bill the same as Reading's in the Championship.
That doesn't shock me.
And they're in the last 16, probably the quarterfinals now, of the Champions League. He put up 2 tackles, 3 aerial duels, 1 dribble, 3 key passes and 2 assists in this game, did Pasalic. Next up, Atalanta hold. They host 12th place Sassuolo, whilst Valencia travel to high-flying Real Sociedad. So, again, another tough game for them. 2020 has been bloody rough on Celedes. I'm not going to ask you guys who you think is going through, because quite clearly it's Atalanta. But how far can they go? They're definitely the dark horses of this competition, more so than RB Leipzig for me. What would you say?
Well, Leipzig have a better shot of winning it than Atalanta. I don't know. It's still Leipzig for me.
Okay.
But it's always dependent on the draw in the Champions League.
It is very dependent on the draw. But let us know your dark horses in the comments below. Like I said, what have we got to plug? We've got Stat Wars, winners and losers, ERU. What was the podcast like yesterday?
We talked about Man City, did a little deep dive into what's going on with them and how this changes the complexion of the Champions League race, what the future could be like for them. So check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and a new episode will appear in your feed every Thursday.
And if you want the same on yesterday's games, then go and check out UCL review from yesterday as well. Apart from that, goodbye.
Bye.